The space station floated in the darkness between stars like a giant silver wheel. It was called the Unified Systems Academy, and it was the biggest school in the known galaxy. Young people from 100 different worlds came here to learn how to become soldiers, diplomats, and leaders. The station orbited a cold gray planet called Varath-9, chosen because no species owned it, and no species wanted it. Una pressed her face against the window of the transport shuttle as the academy grew larger. She was 19 years old, with black hair cut short and eyes that noticed everything. She had been born in a small coastal city on Earth, in a country called Korea. Now she was millions of light years from home, and she felt no fear at all. Only excitement. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. Una grabbed her bag and walked through the airlock into a world of strange lights and stranger people. The main corridor was wide enough for 10 humans to walk side by side, but it needed to be. Some of the species here were very, very big. A group of Velthari passed her, their long necks swaying as they walked. They were gentle creatures, known for their music and poetry. Behind them came a Kathrani soldier, his body covered in natural armor that looked like dark red stone. He carried no weapons because his hands were weapons enough. Una stepped aside to let him pass, and he gave her a small nod of respect. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Concord 15 years ago. Before that, the other species had watched Earth from a distance, curious but not impressed. Humans were soft. Humans were weak. Humans killed each other over small pieces of land and silly ideas. Why would the galaxy want them? But then humans had done something unexpected. They had built their first faster-than-light ship in less than 50 years after learning such things were possible. They had done it without help, without guidance, using nothing but stubbornness and dreams. The Concord had taken notice. Perhaps these strange little primates were worth watching after all. Now, 12 humans were allowed to study at the academy at any time. Only 12, out of 8 billion people on Earth. Una was one of them. She had fought hard for her place, passing tests that broke stronger candidates, surviving interviews designed to make her quit. She had earned her uniform, and she wore it with pride. The academy assigned her a room in the human section of the living quarters. It was small but clean, with a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the stars. Una unpacked her few belongings and sat on the bed, letting herself breathe. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find a boy standing in the corridor. He was young, maybe 17, with messy hair and nervous eyes. He wore the same gray uniform as Una, marking him as a first-year cadet. "Hello," he said, his voice quiet. "I am Do-Wan. I live in the room next to yours." I wanted to introduce myself. Una smiled and stepped aside. "Come in. I am Una." Do-Wan entered slowly, looking around the room as if he expected something to jump out at him. He was thin and pale, the kind of person who spent more time with books than with people. Una liked him immediately. "How long have you been here?" she asked. 3 months. This is my first year." He sat on the edge of her desk chair, his hands folded in his lap. "It is difficult. The other species do not like us very much. They do not know us very well. Some of them do not want to know us." Do-Wan's voice dropped lower. "There are 3 Marvani cadets in my engineering class. They make my life very hard." Una had read about the Marvani in her preparation files. They were tall and strong, with 4 arms and skin like black glass. Long ago, they had conquered 6 star systems through war and cruelty. The Concord had stopped them and forced them to join the peace. The Marvani had never forgiven the galaxy for that defeat. "What do they do to you?" Una asked. Do-Wan looked at his hands. "Small things. They push me in the corridors. They hide my tools during practical lessons. They call me names I do not understand." He paused. Last week, I scored higher than their leader on an engineering exam. His name is Torek. He was very angry. Did you report this to the instructors? The instructors know. They do nothing. Dawan's voice was bitter now. The Morvani are politically important. Their homeworld has resources the Concord needs. Nobody wants to upset them over one small human cadet. Yuna felt something cold settle in her chest. It was not fear. It was something sharper, something older. On Earth, humans had spent thousands of years protecting the weak from the strong. It was built into their bones, written into their stories. The hero always defended the innocent. The bully always fell. Tell me more about these Morvani, she said. Dawan told her everything. He told her about Torek, the largest of the three, whose family had once ruled an entire system. He told her about Bon, who followed Torek like a shadow and laughed at his cruelty. He told her about Galis, the quietest one, who watched everything with cold eyes and said nothing. The Morvani believed they were superior to all other species. They believed their defeat by the Concord was a temporary setback, a mistake that would be corrected in time. In the meantime, they amused themselves by tormenting anyone weaker than them. And in their eyes, everyone was weaker. Stay close to me when you can, Yuna said when Dawan finished speaking. Walk with me to classes. Eat with me in the dining hall. If they see you are not alone, they may leave you alone. Dawan looked at her with surprise and hope mixed together. You would do that for me? You do not even know me. You are human. You are from Earth. That is enough. Yuna stood and offered him her hand. On our planet, we have a saying. We take care of our own. Dawan shook her hand. His grip was weak, but his eyes were grateful. That night, Yuna lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. The academy was quiet, most of the cadets already sleeping. But Yuna's mind was busy, turning over problems and solutions like a machine. The Morvani were a threat. Not just to Dawan, but to every human who would come to this academy after them. If they learned they could bully humans without consequences, they would never stop. Others would follow their example. The 12 humans at the academy would become targets for anyone who wanted to prove their strength. This could not be allowed. Yuna closed her eyes and began to plan. She did not know when the Morvani would strike next. But when they did, she would be ready. She would show them what humans were truly capable of. She would teach them a lesson they would never forget. On Earth, humans had faced predators much larger and stronger than themselves. They had faced ice ages and famines and plagues. They had faced each other in wars that killed millions. And through it all, they had survived. They had adapted. They had grown stronger. The Morvani had no idea what they were dealing with. 2 weeks passed at the academy. Yuna kept her promise to Dawan. She walked with him to his classes when their schedules allowed. She sat with him during meals, introducing him to the few friends she had made among the other species. A Valkyrie girl named Kira, who studied medicine. A Kathrani boy named Rodden, who wanted to become a diplomat despite coming from a warrior species. Together, they formed a small group, and for a while, Dawan seemed safer. But Yuna could not be everywhere at once. It was a Thursday evening. Or what passed for Thursday on a space station that never saw sunrise or sunset. Dawan had stayed late in the academy library, studying for an advanced engineering exam. He had always loved machines. On Earth, he had built his first robot when he was 11 years old, using parts he found in garbage heaps. That robot had won him a scholarship, which had led to more schools, more opportunities, and finally the academy itself. The library closed at the 20th hour. Dawan packed his tablet into his bag and began the long walk back to the living quarters. The main corridors were busy with cadets heading to dinner or training sessions, but Dawan preferred the quieter routes. The maintenance corridors on Deck 7 were usually empty. and he could walk in peace without worrying about bumping into someone twice his size. He was halfway through Deck 7 when he heard footsteps behind him. Heavy footsteps. 4 feet hitting the floor in a rhythm he had learned to recognize and fear. Dowan walked faster. The footsteps matched his pace. "Little human," a voice called out. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Why do you run?" "We only want to talk." Dowan did not answer. He broke into a jog, his bag bouncing against his back. But the Marvani were faster. A hand grabbed his collar and lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing at all. Ben slammed him against the wall. The metal was cold against Dowan's back. His feet dangled above the floor. His feet dangled above the floor, the magnetic locks in his boots useless without something to grip. Torek stepped forward, his black glass skin catching the dim lights of the corridor. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with 4 arms folded across his broad chest. His eyes were small and yellow, like drops of poison. "You have been hiding from us," Torek said. "Behind that female. Behind those other species. Did you think we would forget?" "I was not hiding," Dowan managed to say. His voice was thin and scared, but he forced the words out anyway. "I was just living my life. Your life." Gally spoke for the first time. He stood behind the others, watching with his cold eyes. "What life?" "You are nothing. A soft creature from a soft planet. You do not belong here. I earned my place. I passed the tests. The same tests you passed." Torek laughed. It was an ugly sound. "The tests are easy. They let anyone in now. Even animals like you." He unfolded one of his arms and grabbed Dowan's face, squeezing until the boy gasped in pain. "But I remember the exam. I remember how you made me look foolish." "Do you remember?" Dowan remembered. He had scored 93% on the engineering exam. Torek had scored 78. The instructor had praised Dowan in front of the whole class. At the time, it had felt like a victory. Now it felt like a death sentence. "I did not mean to embarrass you," Dowan said. "I just answered the questions." "You should have answered them wrong." Torek released his face and stepped back. "But you did not. And now you must learn what happens to humans who forget their place." Ben tightened his grip on Dowan's collar. Galleys moved closer, blocking any escape. And Torek raised one of his 4 fists. The knuckles were ridged with natural bone plates, hard as steel and sharp as knives. A single punch could break human bones like dry sticks. Dowan closed his eyes. He thought of his mother back on Earth, working in her small restaurant. He thought of his father, who had died in an accident when Dowan was 6. He thought of all the dreams he had carried to the stars. Dreams that were about to end in this cold metal corridor. He heard Torek's arm swing through the air. He waited for the pain dot. It never came. Instead, there was a sharp crack like stone striking stone. Torek made a sound Dowan had never heard before. It was high and strange, almost like a scream but cut short in surprise and pain. Dowan opened his eyes. A hand had caught Torek's fist in mid-strike. A small hand, human and brown and impossibly strong. The hand belonged to Yuna, who stood between Dowan and the Morvani like she had appeared from nowhere. She was not even looking at Torek. Her eyes were on Dowan, checking if he was hurt. Only after she was satisfied did she turn her attention to the giant alien whose wrist she held in an unbreakable grip. "That is enough," she said. Her voice was calm, as if she was discussing the weather. Torek tried to pull his arm free. He was nearly 3 meters of muscle and bone, a species bred for war and conquest. Yuna was less than 2 meters tall, barely half his weight. But his arm did not move. "Release me," Torek growled. "I will." When you step away from him, you dare to touch me? You dare to interfere? Torik's yellow eyes blazed with fury. I will kill you, human. I will break every bone in your body. Yuna tilted her head slightly, like a bird studying an insect. You can try. Ben dropped Dohwan and charged at Yuna from the side, all four arms reaching for her throat. But she was already moving, releasing Torik and spinning to face the new threat. She sidestepped Ben's charge by centimeters, grabbed one of his arms, and used his own speed against him. He flew past her and crashed into galleys, and both of them went down in a tangle of limbs. Torik swung again, faster this time, two fists coming at once. Yuna ducked under the first and blocked the second with her forearm. The impact made a sound like a hammer hitting wood. It should have broken her arm. It did not. She drove her elbow into a spot beneath Torik's second arm, a nerve cluster hidden under the black glass skin. The Morvani thought no one knew about this weakness. They were wrong. Yuna had spent weeks reading every medical file she could find, studying every species at the academy. She knew things that were supposed to be secrets. Torik's legs folded beneath him. He dropped to his knees, gasping for breath, his forearms hanging useless at his sides. Behind him, Ben and Galleys were just starting to untangle themselves. They froze when they saw their leader kneeling before a human girl. The corridor was silent except for the hum of the station's engines. Yuna looked down at Torik. Her face showed no anger, no hatred, no satisfaction. Only patience, like a teacher waiting for a slow student to understand. Humans study, she said quietly. We learn. We remember. And we protect our own. She helped Dohwan to his feet, her eyes never leaving the Morvani. Touch him again, and I will show you what else we have learned. Torik said nothing. He could not speak. His nerve cluster was still screaming with pain. Yuna took Dohwan's hand and led him away. They walked through the corridor and around the corner, leaving 3 Morvani behind them. One was kneeling in defeat. 2 were too shocked to move. The galaxy had just learned something important about humans. They were not as weak as they looked. Word spread through the academy like fire through dry grass dot by the next morning. Everyone knew what had happened in the maintenance corridor of Deck 7. A human girl had stopped 3 Morvani cadets. Not just stopped them. She had beaten them. She had brought their leader to his knees with a single strike. She had done it without weapons, without backup, without breaking a sweat. The story grew with each telling. Some said she had thrown Bane across the corridor with one hand. Others claimed she had broken Gallus's arm in 3 places. A few even whispered that she had used some secret human technology, a strength enhancer hidden beneath her skin. The truth was impressive enough, but the galaxy loved a good legend. Yuna heard the whispers as she walked through the corridors. Cadets who had never noticed her before now stepped aside to let her pass. Valkyrie pointed and murmured to each other. Kathrani warriors studied her with new respect in their eyes. Even the instructors seemed to look at her differently, though they said nothing. She did not enjoy the attention. She had not fought the Morvani for glory or fame. She had fought them because it was the right thing to do. Because Dohwan needed help. Because humans protected their own. But the galaxy did not understand that. They saw only the violence, only the victory. They did not see the principle beneath it. Dohwan stuck close to her side. His face was still bruised from Ban's grip, purple marks on his brown skin. But his eyes were different now. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just the knowledge that he was not alone. Everyone is staring at you, he whispered as they walked to their morning class. Let them stare. Are you not worried? The Morvani will want revenge. Yuna considered this. They might, but they will think carefully before they act. They lost face yesterday. If they attack me and lose again, they will lose more. If they attack you while I'm near, the same thing will happen. For now, they will wait. They will watch. They will plan. That does not sound better. It is. It is. Waiting gives us time to prepare. Yuna glanced at him. And time is always on the side of humans. We are very patient when we need to be. The morning passed without incident. Yuna attended her classes in combat tactics and interspecies diplomacy. She answered questions from her instructors and ignored the curious looks from her classmates. At lunch, she sat with Do-won, Kira, and Rodden in the dining hall. The other humans at the academy found excuses to sit nearby, forming a quiet circle of protection that needed no words. It was during the afternoon break that Yuna received the message. The notification appeared on her tablet, marked with the seal of the Academy administration. She was ordered to report to the office of Instructor Valeth immediately. No explanation was given. Instructor Valeth was one of the oldest teachers at the Academy. She was Kethrani, her armor plating faded to a dull orange with age. She had served in 3 wars and survived them all. She had trained generations of soldiers and diplomats, watching them rise and fall and die. Nothing surprised her anymore. Yuna found her sitting behind a massive stone desk, her ancient eyes fixed on a display screen. The office was sparse and clean, decorated only with trophies from Viola's long career. A sword from a forgotten war. A medal from a peace treaty that had saved 1 billion lives. A photograph of cadets who had graduated 50 years ago, most of them dead now. Sit, Valeth said without looking up. Yuna sat. You know why you are here. I assume it is about what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday could have caused an interspecies incident. Valeth finally looked at her. Her eyes were like chips of black stone. The Morvani homeworld has already sent a formal complaint. They claimed their cadets were attacked without provocation. Yuna felt something hot rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. Without provocation? They had Do-won pinned against a wall. They were about to beat him. Perhaps kill him. That is your account of events. It is the truth. Perhaps. But truth is a complicated thing in politics. Valeth leaned back in her chair, her armor creaking softly. The Morvani are important to the Concord. Their homeworld has minerals we need for starship construction. Their military is still powerful enough to cause problems if they choose to leave the Alliance. The Council does not want to upset them over a fight between cadets. Yuna stared at her. So you are going to punish me? For protecting a fellow human from violence? I did not say that. Vila's voice was patient, like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. I said the situation is complicated. There are many factors to consider, many interests to balance. And what about the interest of human cadets who are being bullied and threatened? What about our safety? Our dignity? You are new to the galaxy, Yuna. Your species has only been part of the Concord for 15 years. You do not yet understand how things work. Then explain it to me. Valeth was silent for a long moment. The office hummed with the distant sounds of the academy, voices and footsteps, and the constant whisper of air recyclers. Finally, the old Kethrani spoke again. When I was young, my people were warriors. We conquered and killed because it was our nature, or so we believed. Then the Concord came. They beat us in battle and offered us a choice. Join the peace or die fighting. We chose peace. But it took generations for us to truly accept it. Generations of learning to see other species as equals rather than enemies. She leaned forward. The Morvani are on the same path. They were conquered and humiliated, and they have not yet learned to accept it. They still believe they are superior. They still believe strength is the only thing that matters. In time, they will change. But today, they are still dangerous. So we should let them abuse us until they learn better? No, Valeth's voice sharpened. I am not telling you to accept abuse. I am telling you that your actions have consequences beyond this academy. What you did yesterday sent a message to the entire galaxy. Humans are not weak. Humans will fight back. That message will change how every species sees your people. Yuna thought about this. Is that a bad thing? It depends on what happens next. Violet stood and walked to her window, looking out at the stars. You have shown the galaxy that humans can be dangerous. Now you must show them that humans can also be wise. That you fight only when necessary. That you seek peace, not conflict. That you protect the weak, but do not become bullies yourselves. We would never become like the Morani. Every species says that at the beginning. Valeth turned back to face her. The Morvani said it too once. Power changes people, Yuna. It can corrupt even the best intentions. Remember that. The meeting ended soon after. Yuna walked back to her quarters in silence, thinking about Valeth's words. The old Kathrani had not punished her. She had not even criticized her, not really. But she had given her something more valuable than approval or blame. She had given her a warning. Humans were new to the galaxy. They were still writing their story. What they did now would echo through centuries, shaping how other species saw them for generations to come. Yuna had won a small battle in a maintenance corridor. But the real war was much bigger, and it would be fought with choices more than fists. That night, she lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Dowan was safe for now. The Marvani were afraid. The Academy was watching. Everything had changed, and nothing had changed. The galaxy was still the same cold void it had always been, filled with species who feared and hated each other for reasons older than memory. But humans were here now. And humans had a gift for changing things. Yuna closed her eyes and slept. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new enemies, new choices. She would face them all. That was what humans did. 3 days passed after the incident in the corridor. The Marvani cadets did not appear in their classes. The official explanation was that they were ill, suffering from a seasonal sickness common to their species. Everyone knew it was a lie. Everyone knew they were hiding in their quarters, nursing their wounds and their wounded pride. Yuna used the time wisely. She gathered the other human cadets at the academy, all 12 of them, in a private meeting room. Some she knew already. Others she had only seen in passing, faces in crowded corridors, names on class lists. But they came when she called. They knew what she had done, and they wanted to hear what she had to say. The room was small and plain, with gray walls and harsh white lights. The humans sat in a rough circle, some on chairs, some on the floor, some leaning against the walls. They were young and old, male and female, from different countries and different backgrounds. But they all shared one thing. They were all far from home, surrounded by aliens who saw them as weak and strange. Yuna stood in the center of the circle. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. You all know what happened, she began. I stopped 3 Morvani from hurting one of us. But that is not the end of the story. It is only the beginning. A boy named Yayuk spoke up. He was 20 years old, studying to become a pilot. What do you mean? You beat them. They are scared of you now. They are scared of me, Yuna agreed. But there are only 12 of us and thousands of them. What happens when I am not there? What happens when they come for you? Or you, or you? She pointed at different faces around the room. One human cannot protect all humans. We need to protect each other. How? Asked a girl named Yunji. She was the youngest of them, only 16, a genius in mathematics who had earned her place through pure brilliance. We are not fighters. Most of us came here to study, not to fight. Fighting is only one kind of strength. Yuna sat down, making herself level with the others. Humans have survived for thousands of years, not because we are the strongest or the fastest. We survived because we work together. We share information. We watch each other's backs. We build alliances with those who are not our enemies. She told them about her meeting with Instructor Violet. She told them about the political complications, the Morvani complaints, the delicate balance of power that governed the Concord. She told them that they were being watched, judged, and measured by every species in the galaxy. Their actions would shape how humans were treated for generations to come. We cannot change what other species think of us overnight, she said. But we can show them who we truly are. Not weak, not aggressive, just human. We take care of our own. We help those who need help. We stand up to bullies, but we do not become bullies ourselves. Dahuan had been quiet through the whole meeting. Now he raised his hand like a student in class. Yuna nodded at him. What do we do right now? He asked. Today? Tomorrow? How do we start? Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, but real. We start by being there for each other. Never walk alone if you can help it. Share your schedule so we know where everyone is. If you see trouble coming, warn the others. If someone needs help, give it without being asked. She looked around the circle. We also start making friends. Real friends, not just allies. The Velthari, the Kethrani, the other species who are also treated badly by the powerful ones. We are not the only underdogs in this academy. We can find others who understand what it feels like to be looked down on. The meeting lasted another hour. They exchanged contact codes, shared class schedules, and made plans for daily check-ins. By the end, something had changed in the room. The humans were no longer 12 strangers who happened to come from the same planet. They were a team. A family, perhaps. The beginning of something that could grow. The next day, the Morvani returned to their classes. Tarek walked through the corridors with his head held high, pretending that nothing had happened. His followers Bane and Gallies flanked him on either side, their forearms swinging with aggressive confidence. Other cadets moved out of their way as always. But something was different now. The fear was still there, but there was also something else. A kind of waiting, a kind of watching. Yuna saw them during the lunch hour. She was eating with Dohan and their new circle of friends when the Morvani entered the dining hall. Torek's yellow eyes swept the room, searching for something. They found her. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the crowded hall. Yuna did not look away. She did not stand up or make any aggressive move. She simply met his gaze and held it, calm and steady, like a rock in a stream. Torek looked away first. It was a small thing, barely noticed by anyone else. But Yuna saw it. Dawan saw it. The other humans saw it. And from the way the Kethrani at the next table nodded to herself, at least some of the other species saw it too. The balance of power was shifting. That afternoon, a message arrived from the Academy administration. It was addressed to all cadets from all species, without exception. The message announced a new policy regarding violence between students. Any cadet who attacked another cadet without provocation would be immediately expelled. No exceptions would be made for political status or family connections. Yuna read the message twice. Then she smiled. She did not know who had pushed for this policy. Perhaps it was Instructor Valeth. Perhaps it was someone else entirely, someone who had seen the incident in the corridor and decided that things needed to change. It did not matter. What mattered was the result. The Morvani were still at the academy. They would still glare and mutter and look for ways to cause trouble. But they could no longer attack with impunity. They could no longer hide behind their political importance. The rules applied to everyone now, even them. That evening, Yuna stood in the observation deck, watching the stars. The deck was empty at this hour, most cadets preparing for the next day's classes or meeting with study groups. But Yuna liked the solitude. It gave her time to think. Rodden found her there. The young Kethrani walked up beside her, his armor plates clicking softly with each step. He did not speak at first. He just stood there, looking at the same stars, sharing the same silence. "I heard about the new policy," he said finally. "Everyone is talking about it. What are they saying?" "Many things. Some say it is about time. Others say it will cause problems. The Morvani are very angry. Let them be angry." Yuna's voice was tired but satisfied. Anger is better than violence. At least no one gets hurt from anger alone. Rodden was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. "My grandfather was a warrior. He killed many people in the old wars, before the Concord came. He told me once that the most dangerous enemy is not the one who charges at you with a weapon. It is the one who waits, the one who watches, the one who chooses the perfect moment to strike." Yuna looked at him. "Are you warning me about the Marvani?" "I am warning you about patience." Rodden met her eyes. "You have won the first battle, but Torek will not forget. He will wait. He will watch. He will look for a moment when you are weak, when you are not expecting trouble. And then he will come for you. Then I will not let myself be weak. No one is strong all the time, Yuna. Even humans." She thought about this. He was right, of course. No one could stay on guard forever. No one could fight every battle alone. That was why she had gathered the other humans. That was why she was building alliances. Because strength was not just about muscles and fighting skills. It was about having people who watched your back when you could not watch it yourself. "Thank you for the warning," she said. "I will remember it." Rodden nodded and left her alone with the stars. Yuna stayed for another hour, thinking about the future. The academy was just one small place in a very big galaxy. The lessons she learned here would shape how she faced challenges for the rest of her life. And the friends she made here might be the friends who stood beside her when the real battles came. Somewhere out there, among the endless stars, other humans were finding their own paths. Explorers and scientists, diplomats and soldiers, artists and engineers. All of them writing new chapters in the story of humanity. All of them showing the galaxy what their species could become. Yuna was proud to be part of that story. 6 months had passed since the incident in the corridor. The academy had changed in small but important ways. Human cadets no longer walked alone through the maintenance passages. They traveled in groups, sat together during meals, and studied in shared spaces where others could see them. The Morvani still glared and muttered, but they kept their distance. The new rules were enforced strictly, and no one wanted to be the first to test them. Dowan had grown. Not just physically, though he had put on some muscle from the combat training classes he now attended. He had grown in confidence, in voice, and the way he carried himself through the world. He no longer flinched when larger species walked past him. He no longer apologized for taking up space. He had learned that he belonged here as much as anyone did. It was a quiet evening when he found Yuna in the observation deck. She was alone, as she often was at this hour, standing before the great window that looked out at the stars. The view never got old. Billions of lights scattered across the darkness. Each one a sun with its own worlds, its own stories, its own possibilities. "I wanted to thank you again," Dowan said. Walking up beside her, Yun, I did not look away from the stars. "You have already thanked me many times." "I know, but I keep thinking about that day. If you had not been there." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. "You would have survived," Yuna said. "You are stronger than you think." "Maybe, but I would have been alone. That is the worst part, I think. Not the pain or the fear. The loneliness. knowing that no one was coming to help. Yuna finally turned to look at him. Her eyes were soft in the starlight, tired but warm. "You are never alone, Do-hwan. That is what I wanted you to understand from the beginning. That is what I wanted all of us to understand. Humans are never truly alone, because we protect each other. Yes, but more than that." She looked back at the stars. "Humans are strange creatures. We fight and argue and hurt each other sometimes. We make terrible mistakes. But when we are threatened, when something from outside tries to break us, we come together. We become one thing instead of many things. We become a family." Do-hwan stood beside her in silence for a while. The stars seemed closer tonight, or maybe he was just imagining it. After 6 months at the academy, he had learned to see the galaxy differently. It was not just a collection of distant lights anymore. It was a neighborhood, a community, a place where his species was slowly finding its home. "What will happen now?" he asked. "After we graduate? After we go back to our own worlds and our own lives? Will we still remember each other?" "Yes," Yuna's voice was certain. "We will remember. And we will teach others what we learned here. We will tell them that humans are not weak, that we are not afraid, that we can stand among the stars with any species in the galaxy and hold our heads high. And if the Morvani come for us again, then we will face them again, together." She reached out and put her hand on his shoulder. It was a simple gesture, the kind of touch that humans gave each other without thinking. But here, in this alien place, surrounded by species who showed affection in different ways, it meant everything. "Let me tell you something about humans," Yuna said. "Something that the other species do not fully understand." Do-hwan listened. Every species in this galaxy had thousands of years to develop technology. They had stable climates and abundant resources and time to grow slowly and carefully. But Earth was different. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, floods, droughts, diseases, predators that could tear us apart with their claws. She smiled at the memory of old lessons, old stories passed down through generations. We should have died. We were small and weak and had no claws, no armor, no venom. But we had one thing that no other creature on our planet had. We had each other. We learned to work together, to communicate, to plan. We learned to make tools and build shelters and store food for hard times. We learned to pass knowledge from parent to child, from generation to generation, building on what came before. We adapted, Do-hwan said. We adapted. That is our gift. That is what makes humans special. Yuna's voice grew stronger. The Morvani conquered 6 systems because they were born strong. The Kathrani survived their wars because their bodies are living armor. The Velthari built their culture because their planet was peaceful and beautiful. But humans? We had nothing. And so we made ourselves into something from nothing. She gestured at the stars beyond the window. Every species out there reached space eventually. It was only a matter of time. But we did it in less than a century once we started trying. We went from horses and candles to starships and quantum computers in the blink of an eye. Because that is what we do. We look at impossible things and we find a way. Do-hwan felt something shift in his chest. It was not pride exactly, though there was pride mixed in. It was more like understanding. Like finally seeing a picture that had been blurry before. "They think we are soft because we have no armor," he said slowly. "They think we are weak because we are small. But soft things can bend without breaking. Small things can fit through cracks that large things cannot pass." "Yes," Yuna nodded. "They do not understand that our softness is our strength. We change. We grow. We become whatever we need to become to survive. And when we are threatened, we come together. We come together." They stood in silence for a long while after that. The stars wheeled slowly past the window, the station rotating on its endless orbit. Somewhere below them, cadets from 100 species were sleeping or studying or planning their futures. And among them, 12 humans were doing the same thing, connected by invisible threads of loyalty and love. "I have a question," Dohwan said eventually. "Ask. Do you ever get scared?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was honest. "Yes, I get scared all the time. I was scared in the corridor that day. I was scared in Instructor Violet's office. I am scared right now, thinking about all the challenges we still have to face." She looked at him. "But fear is not weakness, Dohwan. Fear is information. It tells you that something is dangerous, that you need to be careful. The trick is not to let fear control you. The trick is to feel the fear and do the right thing anyway." Is that another human gift? Maybe. Or maybe it is a gift that all species share, but some of us have learned to use it better. She smiled. "We've had a lot of practice being afraid. Our whole history is a story of fear turned into courage." The night grew late. Other cadets began to filter into the observation deck, coming to watch the stars before sleep. Yuna and Dohwan did not move. They just stood there, two humans among the millions of stars, thinking about where they had come from and where they were going. The Morvani were still at the academy. Torek still glared at them sometimes across crowded rooms. The old hatred was still there, waiting for a chance to grow. But so was something new. A respect that the Morvani had not felt before. A caution that came from knowing what humans could do when they were pushed too far. The galaxy was watching. It had been watching since the day Yuna caught Torek's fist in mid-strike. It would keep watching as humans spread through the stars, building and creating and adapting to every challenge they faced. And one day, when the stories were told and the histories were written, they would say that this was the moment it all began. This was the moment when humanity showed the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most ancient or the most advanced, just human. Stubborn and scared and fierce and loving, ready to protect their own against any enemy, ready to find a way when there was no way, ready to face the darkness of space with nothing but their courage and their unity. That was what humans were, and the galaxy would never forget it.